on Daf Nunhe Amud Aleph by the two dots towards the bottom. It's like 5 lines up from the bottom. First word on line is Yamutu, and then at the end it says He'ara. So we learned before that in the Mishnah we said that He'ara is Koneh by Yevamot, and also person is over the arayot, he gets karet by He'ara. So we're going to discuss what He'ara is later in the Amud today, but what we need to know is that it's some type of, it's not a full bia, it's some type of partial beginning of the bia. So we learned from the pasuk that by nida it says et mekora he'era, so we learned He'ara by nida, and then we learned from nida to all the arayot that are karet in the parsha. Now the question is, how do we know, says the Gemara, He'ara dechayve lavin minalan. How do we know that He'ara also is considered bia by chayve lavin? So for example, if someone does He'ara to a mamzeret, or any other one of the chayve lavin, that's not karet, we don't learn it from nida, it's not karet, but it's still an isur, how do we know that He'ara is also like bia with those isurim? So midigali rachamana shechvat zera gabe shivcha charufa michlal dechayve lavin behara. So we actually had in this past parsha something called shivcha charufa. The way we're going to understand it is shivcha charufa is you have an eved who he is allowed to be with a shivcha. Eved ivri is allowed to be with a shivcha Kananit. So he is like mikudeshet, so to speak, to this shivcha Kananit. She's called the shivcha charufa. So generally, when
the baby is going to be what?
Good question, but let's leave it aside. The baby is going to be an eved. It goes after the mother, but the what's it called? The
shivcha.
Right. In this situation, so the eved who's together with the shivcha, generally, if a woman accepts kiddushin, she's considered eshet ish, and if somebody's with her, karet. Over here, it's a little bit of a different scenario. It's not karet, it's a lav. That's the halacha. That's what the Torah says. So the fact is that the Torah says by shivcha charufa, by this case, it says shechvat zera. That sounds like you need a gemar bia. So the Gemara is saying from the fact that the Torah needs to tell us that in that case you need gemar bia, that sounds like every other case that's a chayve lav, and you don't need a gemar bia. Just He'ara is already enough. So the Gemara challenges, that says Adarabah, Medegali rachmana He'ara b'chayve kiritut michlal dechayve lavin b'gemar bia. The Gemara says, well, I could tell you the other way around. It sounds like from the fact that the Torah says by nida and things that are karet, that are more strict, He'ara is a problem. Sounds like only by things that are karet, but by things that are a lav only, then He'ara wouldn't be anything. It would have to be gemar bia. So Amar Ravashi imkein lishtok kra mishivcha charufa. Ravashi says if that's the case, then the Torah didn't need to tell us anything by shivcha charufa. The fact that the Torah says, oh, by shivcha charufa you need a gemar bia, we learn from there that by other chayve lavin that are not shivcha charufa, you don't need gemar bia, and He'ara is already enough. So that's the halacha by chayve lavin as well, that He'ara is enough, you don't need gemar bia. Now, He'ara de chayve lavin de kihuna minalan. What about chayve lavin of kihuna? Those are a little bit of a different category. For example, a kohen is not allowed to be with a grusha or a zona. Kohen gadol is not allowed to be with an almana. So let's say he just does He'ara. Is he chayav or no? So he is chayav. The question is, how do we know that? So atya kicha. We have a gezerah shava. We learn in one pasuk. It says ish asher yikach et achoto bat aviv ubat imo. By arayot it says kicha, and by kuhuna it says isha zona v'chalala lo yikachu. So we learn kicha, just like by arayot, He'ara is enough already to make him chayav. Also by a kohen, to any one of the Isurei Kehuna, He'ara is enough to make him chayav. Okay, the chayve aseh minalan. What about chayve aseh? So we have like Mitzri, Edomi, that there's no lav, but it's a chayve aseh. So how do we know by them that ha'ara also is enough to be over the aseh. So atya bia bia, we learn bia bia that it says by chayve aseh, it says after the third generation yavo lahem bikal Hashem, and by lo taseh it says lo yavo mamzer. So we learn bia bia. Yevama leshuk minalan. How do we know that if a lady who's waiting to do yibum and someone else who's not in the family, one random guy does ha'ara to her, that's over Yevama leshuk, right? Yevama leshuk is the isur of a Yevama who is with somebody else without doing yibum or chalitza. She needs to first do chalitza, get chalitza from the brothers to be able to go marry somebody else. So Yevama leshuk is the isur of a Yevama being with somebody else without... Is the isur of a yevama being with somebody else without getting chalitza first. If she wants to marry somebody else or be with somebody else, she cannot leave. Yeah, it's not really necessarily cheating. She can't. She's not allowed to leave the family
until she gets chalitza.
And she either has to do yibum and then she's married to one of the brothers, or she has to do chalitza. If she goes with somebody else without doing chalitza, that's yevama leshuk. She went out. She went out of the family without doing chalitza. That's an isur. Someone is not allowed to be with a yevama until she gets chalitza. So how do we know that over there also he'ara is enough to violate the isur? So the Gemara says, Ilaman damar lav, ilaman damar aseh, aseh. It's either a lav or an aseh. And we already said before that b'chayve lavin and chayve aseh, ha'ara is like Gemar Bia. So Ella Yevama le'yavam minalan. So the question is like this: Yavam who wants to do yibum to the Yevama, and let's say he just does ha'ara. How do we know that that's enough to make it that he's koneh the Yevama? He didn't do a full bia; he just did ha'ara. How do we know that's enough? So atya bia bia. We have a gezerah shava. We learn from the psukim. Isha leba'ala minalan. How do we know a husband to the wife? Now the truth is the machlok exactly what this is talking about. But let's understand it's talking about kiddushin. If somebody wants to be mikadesh, a lady with bia, how do we know that ha'ara would be enough? So atya kicha kicha. We have a gezerah shava kicha kicha. We learn from the pisukim. Okay. So I don't know if you remember, but in kiddushin, when we did kiddushin, we had the Gemara asked this question: is ha'ara kone or gemar bia? And the nafkamina would be a case where the guy does ha'ara and then she accepts kiddushin from somebody else before he does gemar bia. So that's the Gemara over there. It seems to be contradictory to the Gemara over here. Tosfot works it out. Other Rishonim work it out. Okay, either way. Amar Rava. Lama li dekatav rachamana shechvat zera b'shivcha charufa, shechvat zera be'eshet ish, shechvat zera besota. So there's 3 psukim where the Torah says shechvat zera. One of them is by shivcha charufa. So that we just explained, right? Shivcha charufa kedamran. That we just explained. You needed to teach me that only by shivcha charufa you need gemar bia, but by all other isurim ha'ara is enough to be over the isur. So it also says shechvat zera by eshet ish, right? So the eshet ish. Why does it say shechvat zera by eshet ish? Prat lim shamish met. So it's coming to teach me that you need shechvat zera. It has to be a bia that it's possible for zera to come out, as opposed to mishamesh met. If somebody has bia with no erection, that's what it means. If he's able to put the ever inside with no kishui, with no erection. So that's not included in the Yisur of Eshet Ish. If somebody does that, he's not over. So the Gemara says, okay, Hani chalaman damar mishamesh met ba'arayot patur. The Gemara says that works according to the opinion. There's an opinion that holds that if somebody has tashmish, he has bia, together with any one of the arayot, with an ever met, which means with no erection, with no kishui, so it would be patur. That works according to that opinion. But ela leman damar chayav. But there's an opinion that says that mishamesh met be'arayot chayav. That if he's together with a lady with no kishui, one of the arayot is chayav. So according to that opinion, Ma'ika lememar, what are you going to say? You can't tell me that the reason it says Shechvat Zera by Eshet Ish is to teach me that, it needs to be, Boker Tov. You can't tell me that the reason that it says Mishamesh Mit by Eshet Ish is because it needs to be that it has to have Zera. He holds that it's Chayav. Even if there's no possible for Zera to come out, even if there's no Kishui, he holds it's Chayav. So you can't tell me that it's coming to exclude Mishamesh Mit, that when the Ever is Mit. So Ella Prat Limshamesh Meta. So the Gemara says, okay, you know what, you're right. What's it coming to teach me? It's coming to teach you to exclude Mishamesh Meta, a case where a person is together with an Eshet Ish who's dead. Okay? This is what we're coming to exclude. If a person has Bia with a Eshet Ish who's dead. So, what do you mean? If she's dead, she's not Eshet Ish anymore.
She's dead or he's dead?
She's dead. A man has Bia with a woman who's Eshet Ish, who is Nifteret. He had Bia with her. We learn from the fact that it says Shechvat Zera that's not going to be included in the Isur Karet of Eshet Ish. So why would I think otherwise? So the Gemara says, listen to this. The Sal Kadata Chamina. Ho'il la'achar mita nami ikri she'ero. We have in the Torah that it's still called when a wife passes away, a kohen is allowed to be mitameter, because there's still, even after, we see from there, so the Torah says kim lish'ero. She'ero means his relative, his it's like his flesh. So he is, and his wife, she's still called she'ero. She's still called his flesh. There's still a connection even after she's nifteret. So I would have thought maybe there's still going to be isur eshet ish on her also. So if somebody is together with a woman after she's nifteret, maybe there would still be isur eshet ish.
What do you mean? When she died?
Yes. Someone was with somebody who was nifteret. I would think, I would have a havamina that there's still an isur eshet ish because she's called she'ero, she's still called his wife to her original husband. So ema lechayev ala be'eshet ish. I would have thought that the guy who does that, he's, not only is he doing something disgusting, but he's chayav eshet ish also, he's chayav karet. So kamash malan, therefore the pasuk says, no, shechvat zera, it has to be that it's ra'ui lahazriya, not with a mit, not with somebody who's mit.
Lahazriya.
Right. Right. So therefore, we learn from there that it's, if he's together with a met, that's not considered the isur eshet ish. Okay, desota. Now it also said shechvat zera by sota. So why do we need the Torah to tell us by sota shechvat zera? So lamali. What's that doing that it says shechvat zera by sota? So lekedetanya, shechvat zera prat ledavar acher. So the Braita says shechvat zera is coming to exclude davar acher. If the guy warns the wife for davar acher, he doesn't warn her for a regular bia, he warns her for davar acher. Now what's that? So my davar acher, what are we talking about? He's warning her for what? So Amar Rav Sheshet, prad leshikina la shelo kedarka. Rav Sheshet says the case is coming to exclude that the guy said to the wife, don't be together even shelo kedarka. He warned her, he gave her kinui that about shelo kedarka. So Amar le Rava mishkevei isha ktiv. Rava says in the pasuk it says mishkevei isha. Mishkevei is two, which means kedarka and shelo kedarka. They're both included, so they're both gonna be sota, even shelo kedarka. If the guy warns her and that happens, she's gonna be sota. Ella Amar Rava prat leshekina la derech evarim. Rava says we're coming to exclude a case where the guy warned her derech evarim, which means the guy said to her, I'm warning you, don't be with this guy derech evarim. What's derech evarim? When the ever is not going inside any area, it's not going inside kedarka or shelo kedarka, just derech evarim, touching other evarim. So Amar le Abaye peritzuta asara chamana. Abaye says, what do you mean? This is has nothing to do with sota. This derech evarim is just pritzut. It's not actual bia. So Ella Amar Abaye prat leshekina la benishika. So Abaye says, you know what we're talking about? Prat leshekina la benishika. What's nishika? So nishika is talking about the ever. It's talking about ever touching otomako.
It's not kissing.
No. Nishika is it's touching very lightly the ever and otomako. So the Abaye says the case of Sota says Shechvat Zera because it's coming to include a case where the Ever is just touching Otomakom. The husband says he's kinui for that. So the Gemara says, Hani chalaman damar ha'ara zu hachnasat atara. The Gemara says, okay, that makes sense if you hold ha'ara is hachnasat atara, is the crown of the Ever going inside. That's ha'ara. But according, if you say ha'ara is just the Ever touching Otomakom, so then that's already going to be ha'ara. So that would already be enough. So ma'ika lamemar. So ela leolam leshekina la derech evarim. So the Gemara is going back and saying, really, you know why we need to say shechvat zera by sota? The case is that the husband told her derech evarim. He warned her. He said, don't go with this guy, even derech evarim, even if there's no actual bia, just the ever touching other evarim. Ve'itzterich, and I needed to teach me that that's not going to be included in sota. I would have thought that since the husband is makpid and he warned her about this, it would be included in Isur Sota and all the process of Sota would have to happen. Valka kapid, the husband is makpid on this and he's warning her about it. Kamash malan comes to teach me, no, Shechvat Zera. Sota is only by something that's considered actual bia, not derech evarim. Okay, so Amar Shmuel. So now we get into what exactly is ha'ara. So Amar Shmuel, ha'ara zu nishika. Shmuel says ha'ara is nishika, which means it's the ever just touching otomako. Mashal la'adam sheminiach etzbao al piv. Mashal to a person that puts his finger on his mouth. If shosh lo yidchok habasar, the finger is going to go a little bit in between the lips. So it's going to be a little bit in. That's already nishika, and that's already ha'ara. So he holds just that is considered ha'ara. So all the cases that we said by chayav karet and chayav, that's all just ha'ara. Kiata Rabba Bar Chanan Rabbi Yochanan. Rabba Bar Chanan, when he came, he said Rabbi Yochanan holds Gemar Bia b'shivcha charufa zu hachnasat atara. He holds Gemar Bia is the whole atara, just the whole crown, the whole end going in. Yeah. You don't need the whole ever to go inside, just the whole crown. He says that's already Gemar Bia. Yeah. Which means Nishika is going to be Ha'ara, like what Shmuel says. So, Mativ Rav Sheshet, he asks on this, he says, oh, Shechvat Zera, Eno Chayav Ela Al Biyad HaMiruk. Rav Sheshet says by Shivcha Charufa Shechvat Zera that you're Chayav only Biyad HaMiruk. Miruk sounds like the entire ever is going in. So, my love Miruk Gid, it doesn't mean that the whole Gid is going in. So lo miruk atara. No, it's talking about just the atara is going in. So right now what we have is that nishika is ha'ara, and just the putting in the atara is considered gemar bia. So kiata Rav Dimi Amar Yochanan ha'ara zu hachnasat atara. So when Rav Dimi came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that no, ha'ara is not just nishika, it's not just touching it, it's hachnasat atara, it's putting in the entire atara. So amrule v'ha Rabba Bar Chana lo amar hachi. So Rabba Bar Chana doesn't say this because Rabba Bar Chana said gemar bia is putting in the whole atara. So amar lahu o iu shakrai o ana shakri. He said, oh, one of us is wrong. Either he's lying or I'm lying, because they're both saying in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. So one of them got it wrong. Kiata Ravin, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, when Ravin came, he said in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Ha'ara zu hachnasat atara. That Ha'ara is putting in the entire atara, the entire top of it. So Ad Rabba Bar Chana vadai palik. He's for sure arguing on Rabba Bar Chana, because Rabba Bar Chana said that Ha'ara, that hachnasat atara is already gemar bia. But Ad Shmuel milema de palik. But on Shmuel, who said nishika is ha'ara, he's not necessarily arguing, because lo minishika va'ad hachnasat atara, from just touching until the entire atara going in. So karila ha'ara karila, that's called ha'ara. That could be, but the Gemara says ki'ata Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda. When Rav Shmuel Bar Yehuda came from Eretz Yisrael, these are all people coming from Eretz Yisrael telling us what Rabbi Yochanan held, because Rabbi Yochanan lived in Eretz Yisrael. So when he came, Rabbi Yochanan, he said that this is what Rabbi Yochanan holds. Ha'ara zu hachnasat atara. Ha'ara is putting in the atara. Gemar Bia mamash. Gemar Bia is full Gemar Bia with the putting in the entire ever. Mikan ve'elach, but anything less than hachnasat atara, eno ela nishika upatur aleha. That's nishika, and he's patur. Upaliga de Shmuel, and this argues on Shmuel. Now the Rush says that this is the halacha. So as far as the Gemara is concerned, we're gonna stop here, and